Well, if you've been paying attention to the news the last week, you have probably seen the headlines. The federal government and the BC government just announced a plan to buy thousands of unsold condos in Metro Vancouver. Some people are calling it affordable housing. Other people are calling it a developer bailout. Today, I want to break down exactly what was announced, what it actually means, and why it matters whether you're a buyer, a seller, or someone trying to understand where this market is headed and what the heck is going on. So let's get into it. So here's what happened. Prime Minister Mark Carney was in Vancouver for FIFA-related events, and alongside Premier David Eby, he announced a new partnership in British Columbia with Canada that is supposed to forge a partnership to accelerate home building, lower costs, and build new local infrastructure. So the plan is this: through a federal agency called Build Canada Homes and the provincial BC Housing, the government is going to buy more than 2,200 vacant condo units and priority growth areas and convert them into below market rental housing. These are not presale units that have not been built yet. These are completed, finished condos sitting empty with no buyers in sight. Now, to understand why this is happening, you need to understand how bad the unsold inventory problem has actually gotten. According to CMHC data, there were over 4,300 completed condos sitting empty in Metro Vancouver last month alone. That's a massive jump from the year before. Developers built these units during the boom years expecting strong demand, and that demand is not showing up. Higher interest rates, weaker investor appetite mean a lot of these units are just sitting there unsold and unoccupied, basically no demand for them whatsoever. And on the other side, developers don't want to drop prices and sell at a loss, but they also can't afford to hold empty inventory forever, since they're still paying financing costs on units that are not generating any income for them. So this is where the government is stepping in. Instead of letting prices fall further to clear that inventory naturally, the government is going to come in as a buyer. Carney has said the financing model will work by acquiring the units and spreading the costs out over time at the government's borrowing rate, while settling rents at a level affordable. BC Housing would rather own and operate these at below market rentals. The actual program details, including how units will be priced and which projects qualify, are expected to be released later this year in 2026. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is the part that matters the most if you're trying to understand the bigger picture. The announcement was packaged alongside something else. The federal government is putting in $1.6 billion over the next 10 years, matched by the province, for a total of up to $3.2 billion, specifically to lower development costs on new housing by up to 50% in priority communities. So that could save developers as much as $40,000 per unit. These are the fees that municipalities charge developers to pay for infrastructure like new water systems, sewer systems, and the roads. Those fees get built into the price of every single new home. So cutting them is essentially an attempt to make new construction pencil out again for developers who have paused projects because the math no longer works. Now the big question, most of the headlines, is this a bailout? That's the debate everyone is having right now, and I'm going to give you both sides. The case for it being a bailout is straightforward. The government is stepping in to buy inventory that the private market has not been able to absorb at a time when developers are under financial pressure. Critics argue this shifts the risk that developers took on during those boom years onto taxpayers, especially since pricing and terms have not been made public yet. The case against calling it a bailout is also reasonable. Supporters argue that simply using existing housing to deliver affordable homes is much faster than building new units from scratch, and that BC Housing ends up owning real assets that house real people. It's not handing out free money. Now, where you land on that probably depends on the actual pricing details shake out this fall. If the government pays close to market value for these units, the bailout argument gets a lot louder. So what does it actually mean for the market in Greater Vancouver? A couple of things worth watching. First, this signals that government is willing to step in when the housing market wobbles. We've seen this pattern before, going back to support measures after 2008 and again during the pandemic. It tells you that a hard market correction without some kind of intervention is becoming less likely. Second, the development charge reductions matter more for the long-term supply picture than the condo purchase program does for today. Lower fees could eventually get stalled projects moving again, but that takes time to show up in new construction. And third, this does not change the fundamentals for buyers and sellers that we're dealing with right now in this market. Inventory is still elevated, and population growth has actually slowed for several consecutive quarters, according to recent data. And the broader correction in home prices we have seen since the peak has not fully played out yet. So here's my bottom line. This is a significant policy shift, and it tells you the government is paying close attention to the stress in the new construction sector. But the real test comes this fall, when the actual program details are released. This fall is when we're going to know if this genuinely helps affordability or mostly just relieves a bit of pressure on developers' balance sheets. Of course, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, and I'll update you the moment more concrete numbers come available to the public. If this kind of market breakdown is useful to you, make sure you're subscribed and drop a comment letting me know what you think. Is this a smart move to unlock supply, or is it a bailout dressed up as affordable housing? I want to hear your take. From my perspective, the government is always reactive, and it's usually too late. Back in the pandemic, multiple offers on everything, no subjects. People got 15 minutes to make $1 million decision whether they're going to buy a home or not. And then we came up with this rescission period where it's like a cooling off period. You get 3 days, even if you write a subject-free offer, to change your mind. With that came a small fee, 0.25% of the total purchase price. But the main point here is that that was brought in way too late after the fact that it was actually needed. Would have been useful during the multiple offer days, but now we still have to deal with it on a regular contract where a buyer is purchasing a home that's been on the market for 6 months and there's still that rescission period. I haven't seen it being used at all once since it's been implemented. So it's going to be interesting to see how this new government program plays out. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much. See you on the next one.